This session is on the discipline of health promotion, and what we've been doing over the last few weeks is looking at the various determinants of health and trying to understand if you have a a health problem on a timeline, for example, you've got a health problem here. There's all these various events that occur here that contribute to leading up to this particular health problem. And these are all called determinants. Now, we've spent the last couple of weeks understanding determinants and also tutorials over the last couple of weeks mapping out potential determinants. You'll probably remember that very famous rusty nail scenario and all the different discussions about what types of issues may have actually contributed on various levels towards the rusty nail. And we had a bit of a go at trying to work out what sorts of interventions we might be able to initiate to prevent this from happening again. But what I want to deal with this week is the science of health promotion. And health promotion is a wave of public health practice that's part of a history of public health that's emerged over time. So it was only in the last 20 years that the process of health promotion has been widely communicated. But what we'll be doing in this lecture is, as I said, we've come up with this understanding of the determinants of health. I'm going to look briefly at the history of public health as we know it and how we actually get to this contemporary version of public health, health promotion, which is more of a process than anything. In describing the history and development of public health, we'll be looking at key periods and activities in the modern history of Western public health, just to give a background as to where we came from. Now, firstly, this is one analogy that I use quite often to describe public health, and basically it was prompted by this article in a paper showing the Coast Guard rescuing a girl that had fallen off a cliff. Now, the analogy works like this, that most of the public health services effort is focused on providing ambulances and helicopters and boats, etc., to cater for or deal with the problem of people falling off the cliff. But public health moves back up to the determinants of people falling off the cliffs in the first place. And so basically the public health approach is to stop people from falling off this cliff by building fences, etc., etc. So building fences, erecting signs, creating regulations which prevent people from falling off the cliff, educating people about the dangers of going too close to the cliff, etc., etc. And essentially, one of the other notions about public health is that people who can drive an ambulance very well, for example, or drive a boat very well, may not actually know how to build very good fences. And so these are very different skills up the top here. So this is one analogy which incorporates the determinants of public health. You may also remember that Mandela of health that we looked at in one of the previous lectures, where we've got this holistic, it's a very holistic view of what health is. And it incorporates more than just that sort of classical idea of physical health, so absence of disease is health. There are a range of other health. We're pretty familiar in the medical model with mental health, but also there are a range of other types of health or considerations in health. There's psychological, social, spiritual or existential health, emotional health, sexual health, and intellectual health. So there's a range of different ways and different contexts that we can consider health, and the health promotion approach to public health is very much concerned with that very holistic view of what health is. Another aspect of of public health that's very important in health promotion is that whilst the medical model and the mainstream health services rely on individual health and also individual responsibility, public health is more concerned with population, so moving a population in a direction of better health. Now, you'd realize that populations are made up of individuals here, but many of the considerations for moving health of a population forward are somewhat different to moving the health of one individual forward. And whilst the impact may or may not be so great for a population, it actually touches many more people, the public health approach. And so it's very cost effective. When we looked at the determinants of health, we also considered it's the same sort of process as working out what levels of action we might take. And basically, if we think about, we talked about distal and proximal determinants of health. So the proximal determinants of health are largely the downstream issues, very much close to the health issue, whereas upstream factors are these distal factors that lead to the particular problem. And so there's another terminology here. We think very much of a river analogy, where downstream the flow of the water is sort of like in that direction, and essentially all these factors up here, upstream, midstream, and downstream, actually contribute to the actual health issue. And so to conduct proper public health prevention, we need to understand what's happening in these factors that are upstream. That's an often used terminology. So and again, we've moved through this exercise in the tutorials. We're not just talking about those interventions that we require just to deal with the problem. So, for example, we talked about the wound from the rusty nail, and you might say, well, the appropriate way to deal with this problem is just to have a bandage or a band-aid. But in fact, there are many other, as you come to realize, there are many other upstream factors that actually contributed to the rusty nail being there. And so by understanding determinants, we can take action here and here further upstream so that we can decrease the risk of this problem happening in the future. So very much prevention. We talked a little bit about equity and inequity and inequality. Now, what this slide is doing is recognizing that inequality and inequity are two different concepts. Inequality we might picture as situations where in the community where things are not equal. So males and females are not equal. It's a fact. Some people are not so rich. Some people are very rich. So they're not equal. It's just a fact of society. Some people are very educated, and some people not so much. So again, there's an inequality. The situation with health is the major concern is that this inequality doesn't result in inequity. So the fact that males have a poorer life expectancy than females is inequity that's due to inequality. People who are poor compared to people who are rich, people who are rich live longer and have lower disease prevalence than people who are poor, and that again is inequity. So inequality exists, it's a fact of life within the community, but public health tries to address the inequity. So it's like an unfair test of fairness. So the premise with public health is that this inequality must not lead to inequity. Health is very costly. So it's very costly to the individual and is very costly to the community. And so understanding the idea of health, how health contributes to society, and also what can compromise health is very important, because whilst we spend a lot of money on healthcare, we need to treat it as an investment. And the idea is, how can we invest these health dollars so that we actually, over time, decrease the amount of money spent on health? And the way to do this is to understand what all the upstream factors are and working out ways to prevent them. Now, we also want to work towards equity in health outcomes. So no matter where you're born within a community, you should have equal aspiration to a healthful life. With health promotion, the main aim of health promotion is to, at the end of the day, decrease the amount of disease and ill health in the population. And health promotion does this by looking at upstream problems, but looking at the environment, so the social and political environments that people live in, to eventually, ultimately have an impact on disease prevalence.